Hello and welcome to Q&A video number 2.2 or whatever. Today I'll be answering playing related questions. So I have my guitar with me and yeah, let's dive straight in. Number 1. Now I've combined some of these questions, so Mark, Darren and Dave have asked roughly the same things. What do you do to warm up, and what kind of exercises or scales do you generally use? Darren asks, what are the best exercises for hand synchronization, especially for speed picking? And Dave asks, which practice routines and learning devices have I had the most use from? So, what do I do to warm up? I don't. When I do, which is very rare, I might start off with an exercise that I did when I was a kid. It was one of the first things I did when I really started playing, because 2 years passed without me doing much on the guitar. So I did this. Which is just index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, and you just move from string to string. And so on and so on. You can do that backwards, where you start with the little finger. You can do different kinds of sequences where you start with the index finger on one string, start with the middle finger on the next, ring on the next, and pinky on the next, and then again with the index finger, so like this. Those kinds of things. I also did 3 per string. At this point you can choose to either alternate pick or economy pick. I do the economy picking thing. It just happened to be that I did it that way. But either one's fine. Just as long as it's as you feel comfortable doing it. That's the main thing. Then I did scales. I did the modes from the major scale. And did all of those things, which are really basic standard. You find them in every kind of instructional, kind of basic instructional thing where you can do. Whoops. Out of tune. Now that's, you do that with every scale, and you'll kind of get familiar with the scales. And you can rearrange the scales so you have 3 notes per string, like this. Again, just really basic stuff. that's as far as exercises go. I did something with sweeping that was so you start with the pinky, go to the next string with the ring finger, and the next string with your what's that, middle finger? The one you use for international sign language, and your index finger. And to the pinky, ring finger, middle finger, and index finger. So you have one fret per finger, and you just go from string to string. And your right hand sweeps. And when you do it quickly, it's like this. It's very musical. Now, all of these synchronize your hands, and they help your speed picking, just to answer Darren's question. But I don't know how much I benefited from these. Sure, they helped my technique, and in that sense they were essential. Then I started doing licks from other guitar players. I did, well, I'll just stick to one example. I did many different guitar players, but one of the most influential ones was Yngwie, so I did all of these things. He did an instructional video in the 90s for REH. It includes, I basically went through all of that. You check out anything about Yngwie, any kind of instructional thing, and it'll have this one. You've heard him do it, if you've heard anything by him. I did those, and those are much more musical, but still they were just licks. So making music from the licks is a different thing. But what I think I benefited from was the most was that at a very early point I ditched tabs. I just started picking things out by ear. So that forced me to kind of work on my ear and become a better player that way. That's helped my bends, because I can actually hear where I'm bending better, because I've practiced my ear. Even though that's a technical thing, partly you have to use your ears to bend properly. What was I going to say? I'm rambling on here. And then very quickly I just stopped doing exercises. So I just started playing along to things. I put in a CD with someone, Steve Ray Vaughan, Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Lukather, Satriani, Carlos Santana, and all kinds of other things, and I just played along. And I tried to not copy the exact playing, apart from melodies, so I learned the melodies. But I tried to kind of keep the feel, or learn the feel of the guitar player. And that becomes interesting when you, later on when you play your own stuff, you have all these options of things you can do. You can actually choose which guitar player you want to kind of sound like at any given moment. And I'm not saying you're copying that guy, but I can go like this bit here would be cool if it was played by Steve Vai. Followed by Yngwie. Okay, that's a very crude example, but that's basically how I do stuff. And I think the most beneficial thing I've done is actually to just skip exercises and play. And that being said, I've still done exercises later on, or I've learned new stuff by doing new licks. Just as an example, the one from Mattias Eklund. From his song There's No Money in Jazz. Practiced that. I practiced sweeping stuff to get better at it. But what I've mostly focused on is playing, just playing, because that's what was interesting. I've never liked sitting for long times just actually repeating stuff to learn it. Repetition for me becomes boring. If you like repetition and if you like doing exercises, by all means, the world is full of exercises. You just go out there and you find them. Guthrie Govan's Creative Guitar book is quite good, number 2, because number 1 is really basic stuff. That has a ton of exercises. One which was useful for me was the Steve Vai 10-hour guitar workout, which I think you can find online now. You just Google, it's been changed, it's the Steve Vai 30-hour guitar workout. So you can Google that and it has all of these exercises I showed you. Or most of them anyway. And if you want to find the Yngwie Malmsteen REH video, I think that's on YouTube. It doesn't have the tabs, but you'll be better off without the tabs if you just try your darndest. And I'm pretty sure you can find the tabs somewhere as well. Problem with the Yngwie video, although it's very fun in an entertaining way. He does this where he says, whoops, that was crap. And then he says, and I'll do it quickly. So his slow is quite fast, but that's entertaining. Excuse me. Yeah. Other than that, I don't remember what I've done. Kind of just done whatever feels natural. I guess probably at some point I'll sit down and make some kind of practice routine for students, or something that I think would be a good technical workout. Yeah. And number 2, Lou has asked, how does an experienced guitarist who never was able to play very fast build up speed while maintaining good articulation and phrasing? A lot of the tips and advice from teachers and online simply present exercises and tell you to play slowly and build up speed with a metronome, but they don't address some of the ways one might make changes in their playing, guitar setup or thought process to break through to the next level. Any advice would be appreciated. Well, first of all, I think thinking about guitar setup in this example is not very beneficial. You should be thinking more about the thought process. I don't know about exercises. And don't know, changes in playing. One thing you could do is if we take this lick. So if you're having trouble picking that, or let's say you're not having trouble picking that, but you're actually having trouble getting it quicker, you could try, and I did this with one student, don't know if it worked really well, but you, instead of picking every note, you pull off. Because that's easier than picking all the notes. And that way you can concentrate on actually building up speed with your left hand. And you can do it the other way, so you hammer on. And then when you have it quick, you try to build up speed with your right hand. Now this can be much trickier, but first you can just try doing tremolo picking. If you have your hands synchronized at a slower speed than that, when you get the speed on one hand and you get the speed on the other hand kind of up, but you can't do them together, then you have to go back slower again and build up speed together. So you might have been doing this, and you've been doing this, but your speed is still. For the sake of this example, I'll keep it on one string. So if your speed is, and your speed is, but your combined speed is, then that's what it is. You have to practice that. But as long as you have one hand or both hands independently quick, you should be able to build up more speed. And thinking wise, I don't know, depends on who you like. I was always hell bent on becoming the next Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen. I started with Gary Moore's heavy metal or hard rock stuff, and he played some really fast stuff. So maybe you have to just really focus on that. But again, if the practicing starts feeling like really like a chore, I mean, of course it can sometimes feel like it's not fun, but if it really starts tasting like work and you really have to force yourself to do it, maybe you shouldn't. I mean, there's tons of other stuff you can do. Speed, anyway, in my book, even though I was obsessed with becoming a fast guitar player, I don't think it's that important. I think that's much more fun, or not fun, but fun in a different way, and much more valid musically than. That's also fun. I'm not sure how musical it is. Steve asks pretty much the same thing. What fretboard exercise would you recommend for someone who's trying to learn the guitar at a later age and has problems with smooth and quick and accurate finger movements? Like I said, or I don't know if I said it, but I think the same exercises apply regardless of age. So you do the Steve Vai 30-hour guitar workout, you do Guthrie Govan's creative guitar stuff, or Yngwie Malmsteen's REH video, or you go out and buy Mattias Eklund's Grow Your Own Mustache. At least numbers 1 and 2 are fun. If you don't know what that is, he's written a bunch of songs with different techniques where you get the song, you get the tab, and you get a backing track, so you can learn the song and then play over the backing track. And it's all, if you don't know who Mattias Eklund is, go and check him out. Mattias Ia Eklund. He's a real fun guitar player. Maybe I should spell that out, how you spell it. It's Mattias and then IA, that's the ER, and then EKLUNDH. So, looking up on YouTube, for instance. Okay, Gert asks, let's see, yeah, there's no duplicates of that. I'd like to know how often you practice guitar playing and how long do you practice? And when practicing, where do you put your focus, i.e. do you practice specific licks or techniques, or do you often noodle just for fun like me? What does help you most to improve your skills on guitar? Well, the last one I've covered already. My practicing nowadays is, well, from last February to May I practiced a lot. That was because of Guitar Gods, or sorry, from January to May I should say. So I practiced leading up to Guitar Gods, and that kind of stuck. So when we got the kids to sleep with my wife, I'd sit with the guitar and watch something, reruns of Friends or something, and just be going. Acoustically with an electric guitar. And still, sometimes I practice more, sometimes I practice less. I can go a couple of weeks without practicing, even a month sometimes. But then I practice large amounts, or large-ish amounts, for a longer period. A large amount for me nowadays would be 1 or 2 hours. No more, don't have time. And when I practice, I mostly just play. Sometimes I just noodle, like sitting around going. Or then sometimes I play songs. Might be my own songs, although that's rare. Mostly it's other people's songs, Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen. Usually Yngwie Malmsteen, just because not because he's my absolute top favorite musician ever. He is probably my favorite guitar player, but basically because if you play Yngwie Malmsteen songs, you get the maximum amounts of notes into small time, which is good practice for technique. So when I've been playing Yngwie songs, my technique is sharper and I can play other stuff easier. Probably have to start doing something else soon again, because I've been doing a lot of Yngwie lately when I have been practicing. Yeah. Next one. What would be your advice to any young musicians? How do you tackle musical theory and learning new styles? Ooh. Well, first of all, my advice to any young musicians: keep it fun. And actually, your next question, Joel, how do you tackle musical theory and learning new styles? Well, learn new styles. That would be my advice as well to young musicians. Don't stick to one thing. Learn as broadly as you can, because it will make you a better musician. Tackling musical theory, get a teacher who can explain that stuff to you, because it can be really difficult. Or get a good instructional book on, let's say for instance, scales. If you want to learn scales, get a good book on scales. Luckily here we have a good library. From, I think I borrowed a book called Monster Scales and Modes when I was a teenager. Went through that, and my teacher helped me understand some of the stuff, and then I tried to incorporate that into my playing as quickly as possible. So something like that. Theory in general, it helps to have someone who understands it, explain it to you. A book can be good as well. Okay, number 5. Gary asks, did you first start playing a scallop neck? Was it because of Yngwie? Are you self-taught, or were lessons necessary? Do you try and incorporate many guitarist styles, or is your style God-given? Well, as you can see, I have scallops. If you don't know what scallops are, it's where the wood is kind of cut out like that between the frets. Yes, it was because of Yngwie. Or I bought an Yngwie Strats way back when, and I just liked the feel. It helps with bends and vibrato. Doesn't help with playing fast. I don't think it does anything apart from helping you bend and helping you with your vibrato. I did get lessons that I've already kind of covered. Do you try to incorporate many guitarist styles, or is your style God-given? Well, I did try, but I think everything you do, or not everything, but a large part of what you do as a kid becoming a musician is kind of accidental in a way. Half the time you choose what you do, and half the time you kind of stumble across stuff. So it feels like I've kind of stumbled across a bunch of what I do. And sometimes it feels like I choose to do something, but at other times it feels like the something chooses me. Like for instance, Jeff Beck. I tried to choose to do what he does way back when I was a teenager. But somehow I didn't like him enough. I respected him, but I didn't like him enough. Later on, when I got a bit older, I kind of got back to him, and it was just wow. I had no choice but to do what he does, or kind of learn some of the stuff that he does, like. So I don't know. If you believe in God, you could say that my style was partly God-given and partly my own kind of invention. If you don't believe in God, insert whatever you believe in, or just think it was an accident. Yeah. Number 6, Wally asks, have you ever written a song with a part, a melody, hook, bridge, whatever, that you couldn't play? And at this point in your career, what motivates you to practice? Well, number 1, I wrote a song called Lovely Spam which is on my first album. I can't play it. Something like that. Well, that was one I really struggled to learn. I'd written it on the sequencer, and I just sat down. I remember I did probably a couple of weeks worth of practicing that. I seem to remember I still had to edit the actual finished lead. It was terrible, and like you can see, I can't play it now. I haven't played it live ever. Maybe I should. It would be a good thing to practice. And what motivates me to practice? Well, learning my own stuff is one thing. Whenever I do a record, I practice before. When I have something big coming up, like Guitar Gods, that motivated me. Sometimes I'm not motivated to practice. And I think that's kind of fine. And even as a kind of a teenager, back then I did 5 to 6 hours most days, but even back then I could go a week without, well, not a week, but a few days without practicing. I think breaks in practice are sometimes good. That's not me saying stop practicing, but I'm saying do take a day or two off occasionally and listen to music and do other stuff, because just sitting and practicing all the time, especially if it's exercises, that will lead to, well, probably you'll get better technique, but at the cost of musicality. So listen to other people and listen to music and play music, not just exercise. Okay, number 7. Alexander asks, what's your favorite mode and how do you incorporate it into your killer music? Depends on which mood I'm in, but if you pressed me for one, I'd probably say the dominant Phrygian, which is this one. So be my favorites. You can, okay, rarely use any of the pure modes. I throw in some chromatics quite often, but you can make this one sound make it sound like so many different things, and it's heavy. I like heavy. You can think of it as Arabian. Many people kind of associate it with Arabian music for some reason, maybe. So if you press me, that will be one. Another might be Lydian. And Henry Jesus Rios asks, what do you have in mind when you're soloing? You think on scales, ideas, some kind of solo structures like intro, etc. I don't know. It all depends on which solo I'm playing, which song. Try not to think too much. You may or may not be aware that I improvise my solos, so of course I have in mind which scale we're in. Don't need to know the chords going on in the background if they're all in the same key, if they're diatonic, because I hear what's going on, so I kind of instinctively know what to do. Sometimes I think I'll put something in here which sounds like this or that guy, but it varies so much that I can't give you basically any kind of proper answer. Go figure. Nice Q&A video. The guitar player can't answer any questions. Okay, Istvan asks, I have been learning to play guitar for several years. There are periods when I practice 1 hour almost every day. Unfortunately, there are periods when I have only less time. My biggest problem is that despite spending lots of times with diligent practicing, I haven't reached any results. I am able to play only very slowly and inaccurately. What I play is unenjoyable. I started playing the guitar not as a child but as an adult. My question is, are there any psychomotoric illnesses that disable people to play any instrument, or am I just practicing in a bad way? Well, first of all, I'm no doctor, and I don't know about any diseases like that. That doesn't mean that there aren't. We're all different, so if you think of speed on the guitar is very much like running. Some people are quicker, some are not as quick. We can't all be Usain Bolts on the guitar. We can't all be Yngwie Malmsteens on the guitar. Now I don't know, you started as an adult. Well, anything after 18 is an adult, but there's a big difference between, let's say, 19 and 50. So if you started playing at 50, your hands are set in certain ways. The younger you are, the more natural I think it gets for both hands, and you develop muscle memory easier. I think that the older you are when you start playing, the problem is that your hand is so set in certain ways that this becomes, doing all of this becomes really unfamiliar. I'll give you an example. I'm 37 now. No, you wouldn't believe it. Look like I'm 85. No? What? What I'm doing now is I was giving a student of mine those very same exercises I was talking about earlier, and or I was giving them to a bunch of students, and they had real trouble with them. Okay, they were young people, and they didn't have the kind of inspiration to keep on practicing. A couple did, most didn't, but I started wondering how difficult this is. So I turned the guitar around, so I'd be playing with this hand, which doesn't do anything. Normally does this. So now my left hand has to do this. And the result was... Ah! Yeah, that's not very good, is it? And I honestly think if I had time to practice that, and if I did practice it 1 hour a day, every day, I wouldn't get any good with it. Maybe if I did it 1 hour every day, then I would get it up to some kind of speed. But you say that you practice 1 hour almost every day, then there are periods when you have less time. Keep in mind, when I was a teenager, I practiced 5 to 6 hours a day. Some people practice less and become really good. Some people practice more. I'm not sure about the 1 hour thing, but I have limited experience. Oh, sorry about that. Limited experience with adult students. Basically, don't have any adult. I have one adult student, but he's been playing for ages. So I don't know. And then I don't know what you're practicing. So you can do all those exercises that I showed. Should help, I think. Hope that helped, because I'm not sure what else to say. But I will repeat this. There might be an illness involved. I don't know. If you suspect an illness, go see a doctor. Okay, number 10. Gabriele, do you use open tunings? Why and when? Well, now I don't have that guitar here with me, but I sometimes tune the guitar so that you get C, G, C, G, C, E. Actually, I'll go get the guitar and just pause this and be right back. Okay, welcome back. As you see, I've picked up a 7-string. This is my 7-string Schecter. The question was, do I ever use open tunings? And yes, I do. This one is in open tuning, so I got this tuned to from top to bottom: E, C, G, C, G, C, and G. I use this for the heavier stuff. I got into it because of Devin Townsend way back. He uses this tuning. So basically, because it's tuned down, you get a heavier sound. Or you can even go to G. I've used it on a number of songs. One is instrumental from Free Guitar album. And I have a few on the upcoming one. The thing about this is every chord or every power chord you can just do. Scales become symmetrical in certain positions. So that's the way I use open tunings. Yeah. On to the next one. 11. How do you go about composing leads, and do you think leads and solos are important for song composition? This was Blaine asking. Hi Blaine. I don't. I don't compose leads. Unless you mean the actual melodies to the songs. Basically I compose them the same regardless of if it's a song or if it's a guitar lead. Just make something up. I don't know how I do it. Sometimes I'll do it with a sequencer, sometimes I'll do it with a guitar. Sometimes I'll do it with the piano, very rare. But as far as solos go, I don't compose them, I just do them off the top of my head. So I improvise. Really, every solo I think I've had on my records is improvised. I might have a starting point for a solo, so that I always start the solo the same way, even when I'm playing it live, but then I go off into something else. The whammy bar thing at the beginning of the instrumental solo is that kind of thing. So I start with that and then I go off into different directions. And leads and solos, are they important for song composition? I think so. Leads or guitar solos can really lift a song. They can't save a bad song. They can make a good moment in a bad song, but they can really take a good song to the next level. Now, bad guitar solo can really destroy a good song. For me, Metallica is a band I've really liked a lot, and I haven't bought a single one of their records because I can't stand Kirk Hammett's solos. So for me, Saint Anger, oddly enough, is my favorite Metallica record. I was given that record by a friend, and it doesn't have a single solo on it. Yay! No Kirk Hammett soloing. Now that's for me. I realize lots of people like him. That's fine. But yeah, a good solo can really lift a song, and a bad solo can really screw up a song. So it is important in some way. And now, Kevin has number 12. Have you ever hit a wall in your guitar playing, creativity, and if so, how did you get past it? This is pertinent to me because I've written about 2 albums worth and feel I've used up my guitar knowledge and I'm struggling to come up with more than just basic ideas. My old guitar teacher told me that I should use the articulation of notes from other musical sources and just change the notes, this being something Hendrix used to do. But this doesn't seem to inspire me and I feel I may have reached my peak. Any advice would be greatly received. I'm still amazed by how good your English is, by the way. Oh, thank you, Kevin. Well, I have hit several walls and sometimes I do feel that I'm kind of stuck in the same rut. I think there are a number of things you can do. You can do open tunings. You can go buy a new guitar, something that's a bit different from what you have. New pieces of gear can do it. Try writing. If you're writing music and the actual writing is difficult, try writing on a keyboard. I think roughly of my solo material, I would say probably 30-40% is written with a keyboard on sequencer. So in some kind of way, I play dodgy keyboards and then I quantize the thing or move the notes about because I can't play keyboards. So those might be some ways, or learning a new style, picking a guitar player you don't, well, you can't pick a guitar player you don't know, but you pick someone, you search through YouTube, for instance, for good guitar players, and when you find someone you like, you start learning that guy's or woman's sound. You can learn a song by someone, a song you don't know, a song which has something different. There's tons you can do. But I do know what you're talking about, Kevin, because the actual situation of feeling like you've hit a wall, it's terrible, and I've had that. And I don't know, it's difficult to get over even with the advice I've given you. Like I've said, go and buy a new guitar. Yes, we all have money to buy new guitars all the time. No, we don't. So it can be a real tough one. New gear, you can't just go out and get new gear unless you're really lucky. Yeah, so, but all of the above, and hope that helps. And thank you for the comments on my English. And number 13, and this is the last one. Craig, hey dude, cool album by the way, some great stuff on there. My question is, thank you. My question is about playing live. Even though I practice lots with my bands, I always find myself looking down at my guitar when it comes to a tricky lick, and all my favorite guitarists never have that problem. I'm slowly starting to get better with this, but do you or did you have the same problem yourself? And if not, do you think it's just down to more practice, or is it just a different story when playing on stage? Because I want to make sure everything is perfect and sounding great, but I find myself sacrificing the performance aspects a little. Now this is kind of 2 different discussions in one. First of all, I did have that problem, and I do think everyone has that problem to a certain extent. Even Yngwie Malmsteen looks at his guitar neck when he's playing tough stuff. You can get better at this by practicing so that you get the stuff, the licks that you're playing into muscle memory. So if you have much of it's muscle memory. One of the tricky things is sliding around while not looking, and actually hitting the right notes. Something I can do comfortably here now, but doing something like this live, you bet your boots I'd be looking at the neck. But now all of this is kind of tied into the whole thing that you said, that you're sacrificing the performance aspect a little. What do you want to place emphasis on while playing? Of course, it's going to depend on the music that you're playing. So when I do my instrumental stuff, I'm more focused on actually playing correctly than I would be if I would be playing in a band with a vocalist, in a hard rock band with a vocalist. But still, take two examples. I remember buying 2 DVDs. One was G3, the one in Denver with Yngwie Malmsteen as the third guy, and then later on I bought G3 live in, I think it's Tokyo, with John Petrucci on guitar as the third guy. And the difference between Yngwie Malmsteen and John Petrucci is absolutely insane. They're both great guitar players. Personally, I like Yngwie Malmsteen a lot more. But live, and this is just my opinion now, if you look at performance, regardless of what music they're playing, personally I think it's not a competition at all. Well, it isn't a competition, but the contest is over before it's begun, because Petrucci puts his foot on the monitor and pretty much looks at the neck most of the time, or at least stands still, and he's very accurate. And Yngwie throws his guitar around, runs around on stage, jumps about, and isn't too bothered with playing the exact correct notes. Now that thing has been fixed later on, I am almost 100% sure. At least all of his other live things have been fixed later on. But I've seen him live, and I've seen bootlegs, and it's not that bad, so he hasn't been fixing any huge errors. It's just that he likes to put on a show, whereas Petrucci wants to go up there and play the songs. Now, personally, I lean more towards, let's give them a show. It's entertainment. But if you lean more towards the play music side, do that. If you lean more towards the performance side, don't worry too much about wrong notes. You can get away with pretty much when playing live, because a lot of it kind of just is lost in the general noise. You are more familiar with the stuff that you're playing than anyone else, so you'll notice stuff that you miss easier than anyone in the audience. people are, even if they notice stuff, they're generally very forgiving, especially if you're putting on a good show. I play gigs in hard rock bands where I don't really, sometimes I don't care at all what's coming out of the guitar. I'll just be now that's not very musical, but it looks really cool. So you have to decide, which one do you prefer? Now if you're playing something like wait a second to change. If you're playing something like this, then doing all of this is not going to be a good thing. But yeah, I hope I kind of answer your question. At least I don't think I can give you a better one right now. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I'll get back to you. It has indeed been a pleasure talking to you. Until the next time, yeah, well, see you around. Hope to see you live sometime. Bye bye.